What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Oli JT Buron. If you don't know who I am, I'm an Italian professional poker player. I play mid to high stakes cash games all the way up to 1k NL. And today you'll get the chance to study with me 3 spots where I struggled the most at 1k NL. And stay until the end because the last one is gonna blow your mind. So without further ado, let's jump right into the analysis. So first spot of today, we have a single raise spot, button versus big blind against the I think a good regular, haven't played a lot against him. And we have an ace 8-7 two-tone. This spot I like to play a small sides, even though I'm pretty sure you can actually go something like 2/3. Basically, being the board very wet, you want to fast play your good top pairs and try to extract the max value, since you're not gonna be able to bet a lot on later streets when the board's flush completing or straight completing. So you can play this strategy too, but I went for the small bet with my range, and I didn't know actually the frequency of this hand. I do know by my heads up study, usually when you have top and bottom 2 pair, you can check sometimes. I think I went something like 75% bet in game, and we'll check later if that's okay. And my opponent calls, so we'll go to the turn, which is a 5 of hearts. Pretty interesting run out. Don't think big blind is ever allowed to donk here. Not gonna look into that. He checks and we have another decision. Now, since the board is so wet, I think there are some other hands to bet first. For example, top 2 pairs, sets, straights. So we're not really at the top of the range. And I think you want to defend your check back range sometimes. And since this guy is a good player, I thought, yeah, sure, I'm gonna check sometimes this hand. Don't remember specifically what frequency I rolled. I remember having a pretty high number, something like 85, 90, and I decided to check back. Quite simple. And we go to a river, which is the jack of clubs. Now, I don't know the strategy my opponent is playing here. Usually players tend to go something like block and a big bet. I don't know what block and what big bets here he wants to use. So I try to go in his shoes, and in my opinion, at least in the field I play, usually players tend to be a little bit more capped than a solver in this kind of situations. Mostly fast playing their good draws, for example, like 10-9 or 2 pairs. So I don't know this player specifically, but I think he thinks that I'm capped, or at least more than a solver for sure. And he goes for a pot size bet, which I don't know if I would have played a pot size bet in this situation. So he goes pot, and we now have a pretty tough decision, because although we slow played our hand, which is a good hand of course, we are behind a lot of his value. We are behind hands like ace jack, we are behind hands like 9-6, we are behind hands like pocket fives. In game I thought, I don't know if I want to play a small size raise, something like 28, 30 big blinds with a hand like ace 7. Feels like I'm asking for trouble. When I do raise, I don't know if I'm getting called enough with a weaker hand, and in this occasion I actually decide to just call. And my opponent shows up with an ace 5, so a lower 2 pair. We win this one. Really interested in seeing the strategy of the solver. First of all, I want to take a look at my frequencies between flop and turn with these kind of hands. On the river, I'm very interested in seeing what the solver wants to do on this jack as the big blind. So let's take a look at what the solver does. As you can see, solver wants to bet third pot, and let's take a look at the composition. We do want to bet some of our good top pairs, some ranking going on. Of course, you want to bet your stronger ones, something with the backdoors. And as you can see, when you go lower and lower, you're not going to bet your top pairs. Let's take a look at the set region. As you can see, pure betting. So not a lot to add here. I don't think you ever want to slow play a set on this kind of boards. But as you can see, 2 pair, actually top 2 mostly bets. The lower ones not really ready to put a lot of money into the pot. They can play safely on later streets, going for 2 streets of value. Usually you don't have 3 streets of value with this kind of hands. That's probably the reason why you want to check them. Also, you protect your checking range. There's a lot of stuff going on in the solver. I don't think if you bet a little bit more than this, you're gonna be that exploitable. In this occasion, as you can see, the a7 was actually the opposite of what I did, was a 75% check and 25% bet. Composition of his check raising range is mostly polar, and yeah, sets mostly going, and same strategy. Top 2 wants to raise most of the times, but hands like a7 or 8-7, not that strong. And then you have your second and third pair that sometimes want to raise, mostly because they're blocking sets. And yeah, of course, if you want to take the bottom pair, you usually want to have some additional equity. For example, yeah, the spades ones are going to be the higher frequency. So far so good. If you play around 200, 500 NL, I think you already know a bunch of this stuff. So let's go to the turn. On the turn, solver wants me to go pot, and of course I'm using the GTO Wizard AI. It's a one size only. Of course, it's not going to be as precise as a solver, but it's fine for me. I'm not a machine anyway, so don't care being that precise. And we do bet some of our best top pairs, something like ace king, ace queen, yeah, ace queen. Basically, these hands want to bet now and check the river. I think I would assume so. And let's take a look at the two pair region. Again, top 2 wants to mostly bet. This hand can go for 3 streets of value, some runouts, but hands like ace7 and ace5 basically wants to check a lot of times. So in this occasion, I did find the check. Straights are the pure bet of this kind of spots. Of course, top of your range, basically these hands want to play for stacks, so it's kind of natural to go for it. So we decided to check. Let's go to the river. We have jack clubs. Now let's take a look at what the solver does. Looks like the solver wants to go just for a small bet. I usually tend to split in two sizing, and I'm always going to use the over bet or pot size bet or a big bet, at least something like b70. But in this occasion, solver never wants to bet big, and I'm not really sure why, but let's try and understand why. So it looks like we have a massive advantage on everything, but it just wants to go thin with a top pair. This two pair region is going to be raising, of course, or mostly raising. Yeah. Okay. And like ace7 doesn't raise to a block, so pretty sure against pot it was correct to just call. Yeah, as you can see, it wants to just play for a stack. Yeah. Some of these hands wants to go for a raise. Let's take a look at the two pair region. Doesn't want me to raise a7, but wants me to raise jack 5. Probably because we do block a lot of his calls, these kind of hands. Let's take a look. Against the pot size raise. Yeah, we do block the bluff catch region, something like naked ace x. Kind of funny. So bluffs kind of intuitive. 10s, 9s. Usually when you do have the double blocker to a straight, you can go kind of wild. Hands like 10-9, as you can see, that checked a lot on the turn, are going just to be jamming most of the times. Yeah, raises are ace jack, pocket jacks, some two pair with the jack, unblocking the calls with the ace x region. Hands like ace 7 and ace 5 are basically just calling. And in this occasion, actually my opponent went pot, so we can try and take a look against pot, even though he never uses it, so we're kind of in nowhere land. And as you can see, against pot, of course, ranges are going to be completely different, since now we're just studying a spot that doesn't exist. Just to have a comparison, Till doesn't think it's a good idea to raise these kind of hands, and just wants me to go basically even ace jack is just a call. 10-9 and 9s and 10s are just gonna be the value range and bluffing range, so tough spot to play in game, because a lot depends on how he composes his betting range on the river. It's kind of hard to figure it out on the go. While playing, you don't have a lot of time bank. In the end, I thought that my hand was just middle range, a snap call, and not that great for a raising hand. I decided that I didn't want to have a raising range, something like 75%, and I just went for just a gem as a raise strategy, and I decided that a7 was just a call. So that was the first one. Let's go to the second one. So hand number 2, we have a 3-bet pot, a little bit deeper than 100 big blinds cutoff versus big blind against a solid regular, one of the best of the field that I'm playing. We decided to 3-bet the ace-5 suited, and he decided to call. The board comes down ace-9-9. I've not studied a lot these kind of spots, but I think I'm just gonna play polarized. My range pre-flop is very polarized. I do have a lot of under pairs to the ace that I don't see a lot of merit in betting, and we do have hands like ace-king or 9x region that we just want to bet big. So I decided to go big bet or check, and in this occasion I checked. My opponent correctly decided to go for a block bet. Usually, since your opponent is very polarized, you don't want to play big bets. You're gonna be very depolarized, and you're basically attacking all of his trash and high card region, stuff like ace, king jack, queen jack, yeah, it's like this. My bluffing range is gonna be very polarized, something like double backdoors, maybe some air, yeah, of course some air, like low cards. Usually when ranges are that much polarized, a lot of incentive to make him fold Broadway hands, so having low cards is gonna be better. We decide to go for a check call, and on the turn we face a big bet. I really don't know if you can go even bigger, maybe you can. In this occasion with the ace-5, actually all my ace-x region, I think I'm not allowed to fold ever. Basically my folds here are going to be kings through 10s, and yeah, basically that's about it. Of course, some high cards region, some king queen, stuff like that. I don't have a lot of those, but if I do have it, I'm gonna just mostly fold, unless I have a flush draw, for example. And yeah, with the ace-5, not a lot to do, just check calling. River is a deuce, we check, and our opponent just goes all in. I decided to fold this hand, I'm gonna spoiler, and my reason was that my opponent is a solid regular. Of course, he's gonna have bluffs in this line, but I do think that he likes to play a lot with suited connectors, and he's gonna mostly bluff the low region of his range, something like 6-5, maybe even 5-4. I don't know if you ever want to bluff 5-4, but yeah, this kind of hands looks completely fine to me. Even pocket 5s you can bluff sometimes. I really don't think that my blocker, the 5 blocker, is good. I'm gonna have some better hands to call. I actually pure folded. I did not roll some calls in this situation. Will I be exploited? Maybe, we don't know. Oh, the one thing that I do know is that my opponent quickly showed me a 10 of diamonds, so we don't know. He could have, but I think a value bet, something like 10-9, since I don't think he's bluffing on the river, and it's like queen 10, jack 10, king 10. Usually you want to give up the higher part of your range and just bluff the lower one. Since on the turn I'm still gonna call some pocket queens, for example, or some pocket kings, this kind of stuff. So I think you basically just want to bluff, and like 8-7 and like 6-5, yeah, this kind of hands makes a lot more sense to bluff. And I decided to fold it, so maybe if he watches the channel, it's gonna tell us what he had. I'm guessing he had 10-9 of diamonds, but we don't know. He's the kind of player that could have hand like king 10 and just go for it, so I guess we'll never know. And let's take a look at the solver. Let's take a look at the solver. As you can see, it was going for a big bet. You mostly want to bet your ace-king, ace-queen region. Actually, already ace-queen is mixing a lot. Never betting your under pairs to the ace. And yeah, betting a lot of your double backdoors stuff with the low cards. Yeah, a lot of those. And as you can see, you do have some Broadway hands too. Something like king-queen, blocking ace-king and ace-queen in cutoff's range is gonna be pretty useful. But we do check the ace-5, not a lot of betting going on. Lower ace-x, almost always check. We do go for the check, and our opponent goes for the small bet. Of course, we're gonna be very polarized, having a bunch of high cards in our range, so I think it makes sense to just go for a small bet. Basically everything at some frequency, even hands like jacks, tens can go for a small bet sometimes, denying some equity to high card region makes sense. Trips always betting, pots basically always betting, and yeah, the full house region, it's not a lot of those, but hands like yeah, ace-9 is mostly checking, pocket ace is sometimes checking. Yeah, it makes sense. And yeah, it's basically the same stuff for the out of position. These double backdoors and low cards are going to be very good. And this time he decides to go for a small bet, and against the bet, not going to play a lot of raises. Basically never played raises in this kind of situation. I was playing just call or fold strategy, if I'm being honest. So we decide to call, and yeah, we pure check, of course. And in position player is playing a big bet strategy, b67, exactly what he did in the spot. Yeah, most of his high cards are already giving up. You basically want to bluff with lower cards in this kind of situation, since my folding range is going to be condensed towards the high card region. So hands like pocket kings, pocket queens, pocket jacks, pocket tens. So having Broadway hands doesn't feel that great. Of course, you're gonna find some bets. Of course, with clubs, it's gonna be a higher equity bluff. And yeah, then you have the 5-4, 6-5, 7-6, pocket sevens, pocket eights, pocket fives kind of hands. He decides to go for it, and of course we're never folding an ace. Yeah, we're never folding an ace. And yeah, we're basically folding kings, queens, jacks, and tens. And we do have to call them sometimes, since we're blocking the ace, king, ace, queen region. As you can see, pocket jacks and pocket tens don't look that appealing. And then folding all of your air hands like king, queen. Of course, you're gonna call the flush draw, king, queen, king, jack. Yeah, but you don't have a lot of those. You do bet them on the flop sometimes. So we decide to call, and the river was the deuce of diamonds. It's pretty interesting. Of course, we just pure check, and it goes for the all-in sides. Of course, does make sense to have another sizing. Yeah, jams ace, king, and ace, queen. So ace, queen is the threshold for the value bet. This is bluffing range. Yeah, 0 to 25 equity. So basically hands that you check and you mostly lose at showdown, bluffing 38% of the time. And yeah, actually taking a look at this, I'm not even sure I made the best choice. I decided to pure fold, if I'm not mistaken. And as you can see, it's actually close to be a pure fold. So you want to unblock his bluffing range. So for example, and like ace deuce is way better, or hands like ace jack. You do have some ace queen, ace king, and you're actually calling some kings. I don't think that's realistic. But yeah, that was the spot. I'm not sure if I have the chance to go back. I still think I will fold most of the times. 100 big blinds deep is going to be a little bit different. Since we're a little bit deeper, we're 130 deep. I think it's kind of close, man. I'm not sure I made the right choice. Let me know in the comments what would you have done with this kind of hands. I do know that he watches the channel. Maybe he's going to share with us his whole cards. Let's go to the last one for today. So last hand for today, we have a single raise spot, blind versus blind against a good regular of the stake. We have this single raise spot, and we have a jack 8-7, so pretty interesting spot already. I was thinking about going b70 or b30 with my range, and I think since there's already a straight on the board and it's very connected two-tone, I think I would have gone just b30 on this kind of board. And even with a b30, I'm still gonna have to check a bunch, being out of position, having not a lot of equity realization. So I thought that a hand like pocket sixes was just a pure check. Decided to check. My opponent checked back. So not a lot of stuff going on. I think he uses something like b50 or b67 in position in this kind of situation. You can go b40 too. I mean, doesn't make a lot of difference, if I'm being honest. Round out is the 5 of spades, and I decided to go for another check. And if you want to know my strategy here as the aggressor, I would have gone something like b70. I think it makes sense. You want to bet your top pairs, some of your higher equity hands that you checked on the flop, some of your mixed bluffs that you missed on the flop, you're gonna find them on the turn. I think pocket sixes just falls into the check region. Is just a medium strength hand, and against the I think this is 67. I think you just want to call pocket sixes. Not a lot of reasons to raise. If you do want to raise some hands that block straights, I think you rather have something like 6-5 because you're gonna block sets too. Maybe even some 10-5 or 9-5 would make a lot of sense. Actually, 9-5 looks the best to me. I decided to go for a check call. River is the ace of hearts. Now, do we have some donks? In game, I just pure checked my hand. Didn't think about too much about if I had donks or not. Now, rewatching the hand feels like, yeah, I'm still not gonna play any donks in this kind of runouts. I think they're pretty hard to do. Like sometimes in game, you have a feeling that you might play some donks and you have the correct hand for it and you find it. But right now, I still don't think I would have a balanced range playing donks here. So I just think pure checking is fine. Don't lose that much EB. My opponent just went for the B150. I went into some kind of crazy thinking mode, and I think here I have to range call. Like, it's so easy to overbluff. First of all, is this your only sizing here? How low are you going to go with your value bet with this sizing? You're basically representing a flush or straight. You don't have a lot of two pairs. Since ace-8 is not that much of a bet on the turn, of course you're gonna have some ace-jack. I decided to go just for the call and not even for the blockers. Like, I mean, it's so easy to overbluff here. Like, when you have offsuit combos, I think it's easy to overbluff, and I might be overbluffing too if I'm in his shoes. So, of course, he's a good player, so maybe he knows this and keeps his frequencies okay. I just decided to pure call. Of course, having the 6 of hearts was an additional thing, but I think I would have called most of my range here, if I'm being honest. Now he knows, so maybe it will never bluff these kind of situations, but that's fine for me. I will readapt, and as you can see, he showed up with a 6 deuce. I thought in game that was a fine bluff, so of course you're not blocking that many folds. I think it's just a good hand, but we'll take a look into the solver and see if my intuition was correct. The solver wants me to go b40. We do have a slight advantage on the top pair over pair region, even straights and sets. The board is very dynamic. We do have a lot of hair too, so we still need to check a bunch of times. As you can see, it's around 54% checks, and I decided to check a hand that is basically pure checking. I was going something like b30. I don't think you want to have a lot of b67. You can try and take a look at it. Give him 30 and b67. I think when the straight is already on the board, you don't want to go polar a lot of times. Yeah, just sometimes b67, mostly b30. Let's keep the spot simple, just give him b30. That's what I do anyways. So spots goes check check. And yeah, the in position player is stabbing for b40, mostly betting. Of course, straights, two pairs, and mixing his top pair region, going for some ranking. You do prefer to have the jack 10, jack 9. And let's take a look at the example queen 9, king 9. They are betting quite a bunch of times. So This might be my mistake of thinking that he has too many of those. Yeah. And I do block some bluffs with the 6 at this point. But yeah, I think it's still fine. But let's take a look at the hand overall. So run out was the 5 of spades. I decided to go for a B. Okay, he goes for a B67. I decided to go for this strategy too. As you can see, we do have some of these hands that we checked on the flop. Mostly top pairs that wants to go for a bet. Some over pairs, some 2 pairs. Yeah, all of this stuff. Hands that wanted to go for a check raise. Plus, you do have the bluffs that you didn't bluff on the flop. So you have some 6x region. Hands like queen 6, king 6. We check. Face a bet. I was gonna say, yeah, 9-5 looks alright as a bluff. As you can see, 6-5 sometimes decides to go for a raise. Yeah, but you do have some 10-8 too, some 9-7. So basically, some pair plus the blocker to the straight, it will be fine bluff. And like pocket sixes, it's just going to be a pure continuing. And now, yeah, most of these 9x, you can definitely just bet those a lot of times, even pure. You can do this on the flop too, so that's the main reason why I'm not sure that he has a lot of those, but it still has a lot of random hands like 9 deuce, 9-3, so you can still bluff too much. Pocket sixes, it's just gonna be a pure call. And on the ace, against the check, he splits the range in 2, goes jam and 150. Okay, I'm pretty sure he doesn't play jams. Like, I've never seen anyone play jams in this kind of situations. So I will just give him 150. Let's take a look at this strategy. So bluffs are going to be, let's try to filter this. Okay, these are going to be the bluffing ends. So you do have some 3-2. Wow, these are no equity bluffs on the turn. This is going to be hard. And like 6 deuce actually doesn't do this a lot. I would have guessed it was a fine bluff, this kind of hands. And like 9 highs, this one too, I would have said more. Yeah, I'm probably over bluffing too. Yeah, in this kind of situation. You do have the king 9, queen 9 region, and as you can see, you're not bluffing all the time. You basically want to have the heart in your hand, and you do bluff, of course, the king 10, queen 10 region, of course, always with the heart. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he overbluffs this spot. And so king queen, it's easy to overbluff. Like, it's just going for 25% of the time with a bluff, so not a lot of times. Also value, like, let's take a look at the value. Like 2 pairs doesn't go for a value bet here. As you can see, you don't have a lot of 2 pairs to the ace, and most of your 2 pairs just want to check back. You're basically going set plus. Pretty interesting spot. I'm pretty sure he overbluffs, by the way, by taking a look at this. But let's see at the equilibrium already. At equilibrium, you are folding some top pairs. Basically always folding, like mostly folding, sometimes call. And yeah, let's take a look at pocket sixes. Actually, pocket sixes mixes some calls. Yeah, makes sense to call sometimes these kind of hands. They are calling some low pairs too, but mostly 2 pair plus is going to be the bluff catch. So bluff catch is going to be a hand like 8-9 with the suit, of course. Sometimes you can even jam these kind of hands as a bluff. So I'm pretty sure that he was over bluffing. These kind of hands are very hard to play, but I'm very happy that I found this frequency. All interpretation, because on the river ranges are going to be completely different than what we see on the solver. But in my opinion, it was a fine hand, and I'm happy on how I played. That was it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe. And I guess I'll see you in the next one.